Hello, I'm Chitra, faculty in chemistry at Silver Hills Public School, Kozhikode. I am here today to discuss with you metals and non-metals, the third chapter in NCERT science textbook of class 10. Metals, the most amazing substance that the Mother Nature has gifted us. It is so incredible that it finds its uses in every walk of our life. Gold, silver, sodium, copper, zinc, aluminium, iron. These are just a few of these metals which come to us in our day-to-day life. Starting from a small pin to a small spoon, to the cooking utensils that we use every day, the vehicles that we travel in, the bullet train, the mighty giant rockets which venture out into the outer space. All these are made up of one or other metals. Our country's defense strategy is being planned and executed by the gigantic metallic weapons. So these metals, as you all know, are the most incredible substance that we have with us today. But then the question comes, what are these metals? Why are they so special and unique to us? What makes them so useful to us? Where do they come from? And how do we get them? All these are the big questions that comes into our mind. Today, if you listen to me carefully, I hope by the end of the session, most of your such questions will be addressed. But to start off, let me ask you a simple question. What are these metals? Yes, you got it right. Many of you are popping out with the answer, metals are elements. Okay, then what are elements? Confused, isn't it? Now let us try to find out an answer to this question. In class 9, if you remember it correctly, we mainly discussed on matter and its classifications. Matter is defined as anything which occupies space and has mass. The air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the food that we eat, the clothes, this place where I stand, this whole earth where we live, and the stars twinkling in the night sky. Everything is made up of matter. If everything and anything that we feel and see around us constitutes matter, then what is this matter made up of? This was a big question, was prevalent for quite a long time among the great scientists and philosophers ever since science started its development. And this question remained unanswered for centuries until Sir John Dalton in 1806 proposed his atomic theory. In his atomic theory, Sir John Dalton proposed that all forms of matter that we see around us are made up of very, very small, infinite, invisible, indivisible particles called atoms. These are the three describing words that he used. If you remember it correctly, that all forms of matter are made up of infinite number of invisible, indivisible particles called atoms. And these atoms, they join together to form molecules. Thus we studied that atoms and molecules constitute all forms of matter that we see around us. And based on the atoms and molecules present in a substance, we can classify matter into pure matter and impure matter. Now what do you mean by pure matter? Matter made up of particles of the same kind. So based on that, we can further classify matter into elements and compounds. Elements are the purest form of matter which is made up of same type of atoms. And two or more different types of atoms chemically combine in a definite ratio to form compounds. Both elements and compounds are the purest form of matter. Whereas, if these elements and compounds physically combine with each other in any ratio, then it forms the impure matter which is called mixtures. This is what you studied in your class 9. Once again, we will start. In class 9, we mainly discussed on matter. Matter means everything that we see or feel around us. Matter is classified into pure matter and impure matter based on the atoms and molecules present in it. Elements and compounds are the purest forms of matter. Now coming to our point, we say that elements are the purest form of matter which are made up of same type of atoms, whereas these elements chemically combine to form compounds. This much we studied in class 9. I hope all of you remember this, that all forms of matter can be either classified as elements, compounds or mixtures. Now, it was, as I already said, Sir John Dalton who proposed his atomic theory, which gave the presence or which concreted, solidified the presence of atoms. Now coming to the elements, as I already said, they are the purest form of matter. Now at present, about 118 different types of elements are known to us. This is the modern periodic table. What is a periodic table? It's a table, it's a chart wherein all the elements known to us are arranged in a particular order. Okay, and in this periodic table, starting from hydrogen, you can see 118 elements arranged in a gradual manner. And of these 118 elements which are known to mankind at present, just 92, see here, you can see uranium here, starting from hydrogen to uranium, just 92 elements exist on earth at present. The remaining elements coming after atomic number 92, the elements coming after uranium, they are called transuranic elements. These transuranic elements, long back when the earth evolved, they might have been present on earth. But as of now, they are extinct from the earth. They are to be artificially prepared in the laboratory. Okay, so talking about these 92 elements which are present on earth at present, more than 60 of them are metals. Remaining 24 of them are non-metals and the remaining 8 of them are metalloids or semi-metals. Non-metals and metals share drastically different properties, extremely different properties. Whatever metals show, it's just reverse properties are shown by non-metals. And these semi-metals, here you can see on this periodic table, all the elements on the left hand side are metals. All the elements on the extreme right hand side, that yellow colored, they all are non-metals. And here you see a zigzag line, boron, silicon, germanium, antimony, bismuth. All of them are called metalloids or semi-metals. Since they form the boundary between the metals and the non-metals, they show intermediate properties. That is, sometimes some of the properties they show of that of metals, whereas the remaining properties will be of non-metals. That's why they are called semi-metals or metalloids. So, I think this much is clear for you all. Once again, we will repeat. The whole universe is made up of matter. All forms of matter are made up of atoms or molecules. If same type of atoms join together, then that substance is what is called an element. Now, elements can be classified into metals, non-metals and metalloids. About 118 elements are known to us, of which 92 exist on earth at present. Of these, majority are metals, more than 60 are metals. Few are non-metals and very few of them are metalloids. So, this much we discussed about what we studied in class 9. This recapitulation was very important as we move forward to our this year's topic. This year, for today's session, our learning objectives are to explain the physical and chemical properties of metals and non-metals, to distinguish between metals and non-metals based on their properties, and the third learning objective is to locate metals and non-metals in the periodic table, which you just now saw. In the periodic table, on the left hand side you see all the metals, on the right hand side you see all the non-metals, and in between that staggered boundary line above and below that you see the metalloids. Now, this is our next, the most important topic of the day, physical properties of metals. What do you mean by physical properties? Physical properties just means the external properties, how that substance appears from outside. There are many physical properties like state, melting point, boiling point, density, hardness. Lot of physical properties are there. Now, we will see some of the physical properties of metals. The first physical property, state. You know that all forms of matter exist generally in 3 states: solids, liquids and gases. Generally speaking, metals are solids. Almost all the metals that are known to us, silver, gold, platinum, copper, iron, aluminum, all of them exist as metals, except for mercury. Mercury is the only metal which exists in the liquid state at room temperature. Here you can see mercury in the liquid state. That is why we make use of mercury in thermometers, because this liquid mercury in the thermometer, in the bulb of the thermometer, gently rises up according to the variation in temperature, in the body temperature. Thus, it helps in identifying the body temperature correctly. So, the first point, the state, generally metals are solid except for mercury. Now comes the next property, the second property, which is the melting and the boiling point. What do you mean by melting point? The temperature at which a solid melts or a solid changes into its liquid state. And boiling point refers to the temperature at which a liquid changes into its vapor state. In metals, they generally have very high melting and boiling point. Metals generally show very high melting and boiling point. Except, here also we have some exceptions, except for mercury. Because mercury has a melting point lower than the room temperature, it exists as a liquid. In the previous point we discussed that mercury is a liquid. Why is mercury a liquid? Because its melting point is lower than the room temperature. Then there are two other metals, magical metals you can say, cesium and gallium, which start melting in our palms. Here you can see a piece of cesium or gallium in your hand starts melting. It melts like an ice cube. So, generally speaking about the second property, melting and boiling point, generally metals have very high melting and boiling point except for mercury, which is having the least melting point, and hence it is a liquid at room temperature. Cesium and gallium, they have a melting point almost equal to our body temperature. So they start melting in our palms. Now the third important property, hardness and strength. It is because of this unusual property, these metals are generally used for construction materials, for making construction materials, for making weapons and tools. See, it is interesting to know that we get these metals from the earth's crust. We take out these metals, we convert them into mighty weapons, and with these mighty weapons, we drill into the earth's crust again to extract more of these minerals. Very interesting, isn't it? In a way, we are exploiting our Mother Nature, Mother Earth itself. Anyway, we can just now see that metals, the third most important property of metals is its hardness and strength. Generally speaking, metals are very hard and strong. See, all the huge skyscrapers and the huge buildings, towers, bridges, everything is made up of metals because of its hardness and strength. Okay. But here again we have exceptions. There are very soft metals also, which can be easily cut with a knife, which can be broken down into pieces. Such metals are called soft metals. Lithium, sodium and potassium are soft metals which can be easily cut with a knife. Here you can see a piece of sodium or a piece of potassium being cut with a knife. Okay, so the third property, once again, metals are generally very hard and strong, except for the alkali metals, lithium, sodium, potassium, etc. Now this is the most interesting and important property of metals, which makes them use as a beautifying agent. Every ladies, every men or women, they will feel like wearing an ornament. No, that is because of the luster of metals. What do you mean by luster? The ability to shine. When light is falling on a metal, it shines brightly. This ability of a metal to shine when light reflects on it, or the ability to reflect light, is what is called luster. And generally, metals are lustrous. We can identify the metals from their luster. The most beautifully lustrous metals, here you can see copper can be identified by its reddish brown luster. Copper has a reddish brown luster. Silver has a silver grey luster. Iron has a greyish black luster, whereas gold has a brilliant golden luster which adds to its values. A piece of gold is a dream of every woman, no? Because we have an assumption that it adds on to our beauty. So this is a general property of metals. Generally, metals are lustrous. That means they shine when light falls on them. Density. This again we have discussed in class 9, if you remember. Density refers to the heaviness of a substance. It is defined as mass per unit volume of a substance. Density can be defined as mass by volume, mass per unit volume of a substance. Its SI unit is kilogram per meter cubed or gram per centimeter cubed. How do we get this unit? See, the formula for density is mass by volume. The SI unit of mass is gram or kilogram, and that of volume is meter cubed or centimeter cubed. So the SI unit of density becomes gram per centimeter cubed or kilogram per meter cubed. And based on density, generally we can say that metals are very dense, very heavy, and based on density we can classify metals into heavy metals and light metals. Okay, majority of the metals are heavy metals: iron, copper, gold, aluminum, silver, all the metals familiar to us are heavy metals. And you know, osmium has a symbol Os, is the densest metal, and the lightest metal is lithium, alkali metal, lithium, sodium, potassium, of which lithium is the lightest metal. Lithium has a density less than that of water. What does it mean? A piece of lithium, if you put it into water, you can see it floating on the water surface. So, about density once again, generally metals are very dense. Osmium is the densest metal and lithium is the lightest metal. Density refers to the heaviness of a substance. Our next property, malleability. What do you mean by malleability? The ability to be flattened into thin sheet is called malleability. Any metals can be flattened into very thin sheets by beating or by hammering. So, generally speaking, metals are all highly malleable in nature. Every metal, there is no exception for this. Metals are generally malleable. That means they can be flattened into very thin sheets. As you can see it here, gold and silver are the most malleable substances. Gold and silver are the most malleable substances. One interesting fact is there about gold. You know, 1 gram of gold can be flattened into a thin sheet which can cover the whole of a tennis court. Interesting, isn't it? So, gold is the most malleable substance and followed by silver. See here, you can see a piece of gold being hammered into a thin sheet. And here you see aluminum, silver foils. See, you also remember, no, now it is the Deepavali season which is going to come and we are going to have the sweets, Diwali sweets, which will be often decorated with silver foils. This property, it is this malleability of silver that enables it to be used as foils, as a decorating material for the expensive Diwali sweets which we usually exchange with our friends and relatives. So, that was the next property, malleability, which refers to the ability to be flattened into thin sheets. Metals are generally malleable, gold and silver are the most malleable substances, metals. Now, the next property, the 7th property in fact we are discussing, which is ductility. What do you mean by ductility? The ability to be drawn into fine wires, into thin wires is called ductility. Generally speaking, metals are very ductile in nature. They can be drawn into fine wires. Again, gold, silver, copper, these all are the most ductile metals. Again, there is one interesting thing. 1 gram of gold can be drawn into a lengthy thin wire which can extend up to 2 kilometers. How interesting, isn't it? With 1 gram gold, you can draw a thin wire of about 2 kilometers of length. That itself shows how ductile this metal is. Copper wires, we are familiar with copper wires which are used as electrical cables. No, iron wires are used, aluminum wires are used. So, all these shows that metals are highly ductile in nature. See, here you can see a copper metal being drawn into copper wires which can be used as electrical cables. This is one interesting property, sonority. What do you mean by sonority? Whenever you hit or beat a metallic object with any other hard substance, it produces a ringing sound. This ability of a metal to produce a pleasant ringing sound when bet with a hard object is referred to as sonority. And generally speaking, metals are sonorous. The most sonorous metal is copper. That is why copper is used for making bells and the strings of musical instruments. No, guitar, violin, sitar, all the musical instruments are given strings of copper. You can see the bell in temples or in mosque or in church, all are made of copper, or their alloys. Mixture of a metal with other metals is called an alloy. So, alloys of copper can be used because of this property of producing a ringing sound when bet with a hard object. So, generally speaking, metals are sonorous. Here again I would like to share one interesting fact. You know, the ringing sound produced by tin is called tin cry. Tin is a very cheap metal, easily available. Now, when you beat tin, that sound that it produces, it's different from the sound produced by copper or iron. So, that ringing sound of tin, that is what is called tin cry, which is usually a metaphor that we use in English. Speaking about the next important property of metals, conductivity. What do you mean by conductivity? The ability to allow to flow. Metals are very good conductors of heat as well as electricity. That means metals allow heat to pass through them. That's why all the cooking utensils that we use in our day-to-day life are made up of metals. Copper, silver, gold, they are the best conductors. But since silver and gold we can't afford to, majority of our cooking utensils are either made of copper, iron or aluminium. But you have to remember here, the best conductors are gold and copper itself. That is why some of our very rare precious cutlery that we are having, sometimes they are made of silver. But we are very afraid to take them out. We keep them for the special guests. When they come, we serve very proudly in front of them because they are very expensive. They are in fact the best conductors, but as I said, we generally go for copper, iron or aluminium. Now here you can see an activity to prove what I said now. See, in this activity, you can see an iron rod being mounted on a clamp stand. And we are fixing 2 or 3 safety pins or board pins on that, and the other end is being heated with a candle. What do you expect to observe after some time? After some time, you can see that these pins starts falling down. Why does it happen? Why is it happening? You are just heating on one side and the other side, even the last pin over here, you can see it falling. Why does it happen? Yes, you got it right. That is simply because this metal rod is a very, very good conductor of electricity. This we might have experienced in the kitchen, no? That is why most of these pressure cookers or saucepans, they are provided with plastic handles. Why are they given these plastic handles? So that we can conveniently use them. Otherwise, we will burn our hands because the heat, though you are heating only at the bottom of the pan, the heat may be conducted to the other side. So, speaking about this property once again, metals are very good conductors of heat as well as electricity. This is one common picture that always is there in our mind. You can see huge towers through which the electric cables are going. These electric cables can either be made of copper or iron. So, this itself proves that metals are very good conductors of heat as well as electricity. So, these all are the properties of metals that we were discussing so far. Once again, what all are the properties that we discussed so far? We started with state. Metals are generally solids. Then we said why they are solid? Because they possess very high melting and boiling point. They are very hard and strong, so we use them as construction material. They possess unusual properties of high malleability and ductility. They are very lustrous. They are very shiny. They produce a ringing sound when wet with a hard object. Also, finally we discussed that these metals are very good conductors of heat and electricity. Now, here I have a few interesting facts to share with you about these metals. See, this is what I discussed earlier. These metals, just 1 gram of gold. About gold, what did we discuss? That gold is the most malleable metal. Now, 1 gram of, and also it is very ductile, the most ductile metal. 1 gram of gold can be drawn into a wire of length 2 kilometers. Very, very interesting, isn't it? This is one very interesting property that is very relevant nowadays. Have you ever heard of this property? See, copper and silver possess this unusual property. That means they have an ability to sterilize themselves. They get sterilized themselves. They kill the bacteria and viruses present on them. In this testing time of COVID, if all the objects that are made of silver and copper, we are constantly using them, then that means we can keep away from this coronavirus to a great extent. That is why you might have seen your grandparents or your parents often the previous day night before we go to sleep, we store some water in a copper vessel. And next day morning, that water should be very pure, okay? That pure water is taken in a copper vessel and then we just go to bed. The next day morning, the first thing that we do is drink 2 or 3 sips of that water. Because overnight, what would have happened? This water would have got sterilized and its immunity would have increased. So, when we drink that water, that enhances our immunity. It helps us fight against this virus. So, in this testing time, I would recommend all of you to drink or cook something in copper or silver vessels. So, the doorknobs, see, there I have shown a doorknob. Often the door knobs, if you just keep them using every now and then, that again helps you keep away from these viruses. And this property is what is called oligodynamic effect. I am sure this is one new thing that most of you might be hearing. Oligodynamic effect refers to the self-sterilizing property of copper and silver. So, with that we come to an end of the properties of metals. I already told you of the 92 elements existing, more than 60 are metals. What about the remaining ones? They are called non-metals because they show properties just opposite to that of metals. Let us see these properties one by one again. We started off with the first property. What is it? State. About metals we said they all are solids except for mercury. Here about non-metals we can see that they exist in all the 3 states. Majority of the non-metals, which all are the common non-metals? Helium, neon, argon, oxygen, sulfur, chlorine, bromine, iodine, all these are the non-metals familiar to us. Of these non-metals, majority of them, as I just now mentioned, helium, neon, argon, oxygen, nitrogen, majority of them are gases. Fluorine, chlorine, again gases. See, here you can see fluorine gas, greenish in color, chlorine gas, gaseous in nature. Majority of the non-metals are gases. There is only one liquid non-metal, which is bromine. Bromine has a reddish brown color. Bromine is the only liquid non-metal. And we have very, very few solid non-metals. Which are the solid non-metals? Carbon. Carbon is abundantly available in the earth's crust in the form of coal, charcoal, diamond, graphite, etc. Carbon is a solid non-metal. Phosphorus, again, sulfur. These are generally the solid non-metals. But these solid non-metals themselves, they are amorphous, means they are very soft. So with that we come to our next property. What is it? Melting point and boiling point. About metals we said very high melting and boiling point. But about non-metals, they have very low melting and boiling point. That itself explains why non-metals, most of them are gases. Even those which are solids, no? Like which all are the solid non-metals? Carbon, sulfur, phosphorus. They also have very low melting and boiling point. You know, we have used sulfur in the laboratory. Sulfur has just 78 degrees Celsius melting point. Okay. So, the second property, the most important, the first property, the most important property, non-metals exist in all the three states. Generally gases, only one bromine is a liquid non-metal, majority, very few of them are solids. Okay. Hardness and strength. This can be connected to the first and the second property. That is, non-metals are very soft and brittle, generally speaking, because they have very low melting and boiling point. They can easily be powdered. So generally, non-metals are very soft and brittle. Most of them are in the powdered state itself. But here you have to remember one interesting thing. See, which is the hardest non-metal or which is the hardest naturally occurring substance on earth? Nothing but diamond. Diamond is a form of carbon. It's an allotrope of carbon. Here you see a word allotrope. What do you mean by allotropy? Allotropy refers to the ability of a substance to exist in different physical forms. Coal, charcoal, graphite, diamond, all these are the different allotropic forms of carbon. And of these allotropic forms, diamond is the hardest naturally occurring substance. So that comes as an exception for the third property, hardness. So what do you say about the third property, hardness and strength? Generally non-metals are very soft and brittle except for diamond. Luster, the ability to shine. These non-metals, they come in different colors. Just now you saw yellow colored sulfur, red colored phosphorus. They come in different colors, but they are non-lustrous, generally speaking. They do not shine. They are very dull in appearance. Here again we have exceptions. See, diamond, just now we said about diamond, the most brilliant substance, brilliant luster it is having. Graphite, another form of carbon, it is having a grayish black luster. Iodine has a purple colored luster. These are the exceptions. These are the lustrous non-metals. See, here you can see iodine. Iodine, it's an ingredient of betadine. Iodine has antiseptic properties also. And one more thing you have to remember about iodine. Iodine is a sublimating solid. It's a solid non-metal, but it's a sublimating solid which directly vaporizes. And you can see that brilliant purple vapors of iodine. So iodine has a brilliant purple luster, graphite has a grayish black luster, and diamond has a brilliant luster. So speaking about luster, generally non-metals are non-lustrous except for these three examples. The next property, density, heaviness. Metals were very dense, but non-metals, strikingly opposite property. They are very light, very light. So they possess very low density. Malleability, ability to be flattened into thin sheets. How can they be flattened when they are very soft and brittle? Impossible. So generally non-metals are non-malleable. That means they cannot be flattened upon hammering or beating. Ductility, the ability to be drawn into wires. We can say non-metals are non-ductile. We can't even imagine of them to be drawn into wires because they break down easily. Non-sonorous, sonoricity. They are non-sonorous. They don't produce a ringing sound. When they break down, how can they produce a ringing sound? So non-metals are non-sonorous. conductivity. Poor conductors of heat and electricity. Non-metals, generally speaking, they all are very poor conductors of heat and electricity. But here again we have an exception. What is it? Graphite. Just now you saw graphite, no? Here I will show you. See, this is graphite, a piece of graphite which is available in the form of rods. Now this graphite is the best conductor of electricity. You see graphite rods in dry cells, no? The conductor, the electrode of a dry cell is this carbon, graphite. So graphite is a best conductor of electricity, though it is a non-metal. So these all were the properties of non-metals. Once again, repeating the properties, non-metals are generally gases. They exist in all the three states, generally gases. Only one liquid, bromine, then few are solids with very low melting and boiling point. Generally they possess very low melting and boiling point. They are very soft and brittle, they powder down easily. They possess very low density. They are non-malleable, they are non-ductile, they are non-sonorous, and generally speaking they are very poor conductors of heat and electricity with small exceptions. Now here again I would like to share some interesting facts about these non-metals. You know, these metals and non-metals, they are present even in our bodies. There are large number of non-metals without which we won't be able to survive. I won't be able to stand like this. I won't be able to talk to you like this. And if something happens to me, if something accidental happens to me, nobody will be able to identify who I am without the presence of this amazing non-metal. Which one is it? Phosphorus. What is the importance of phosphorus? Phosphorus is so essential for the body's energy transport molecules. You might have studied in biology. No? The energy transport system will fail absolutely if there is an absence of phosphorus in our body. And also this phosphorus has an important role in holding the DNA and RNA molecules. That's what I said. If something happens to me without phosphorus in my body, nobody will be able to identify who I am, what I am. So phosphorus is a very essential non-metal in our body. Another important fact, see, nitrogen, oxygen, sulfur, all these are essential for our normal body functioning. Nitrogen, oxygen is essential for our respiration. The moment we run short of oxygen, we are dead. We are not alive after that. Nitrogen, it's an ingredient of proteins or body building nutrients. No, the same way sulfur. All these are equally important for the normal functioning of all the living bodies. So, though we started saying metals are highly incredible, without metals we don't have a life, even non-metals are equally important for us. So, that was the topic for today's session, that is the physical properties of metals and non-metals, strikingly different properties. And also we discussed on the metalloids. What are metalloids? They also are called semi-metals, which show properties intermediate to that of metals and non-metals. Now coming to the examination point of view, this chapter is very important as far as class 10 board exams are concerned. In every question paper, this chapter is given a weightage of 8 marks, of which in every question paper you can see a 5-mark question, a 2-mark question and a 1-mark question. Or it can be 2 3-mark questions and 1 2-mark question. Totally you can expect 8 marks questions from this one chapter alone. But here the most favorable factor for you is most of the questions are direct. If you remember in the previous chapter when we were discussing about sols, I told you that in sols the questions expected will be of an indirect type. But here we can expect only direct questions like name the following, what is it, explain. You get 1 marks or you lose 1 marks. So with these, the main points which we discussed today, I am sure all of you will be able to get good marks. Now let us see the questions. These are just 1 or 2 sample questions which I have taken for you. Write 1 example each of a metal which is so soft that it can be cut with a knife, and a non-metal which is the hardest. See here in this question you can see 2 subparts, and in both the subparts, in the first subpart itself you can see 2 separate questions. So for getting full marks, what you are supposed to do is attempt each subpart separately. So coming to the first subpart 1. The first subpart of it, which metal is so soft? We can see the answer. Which is that soft metal? Sodium, potassium, no? And which is the second part? See the second part. Which is that non-metal which is hardest? Which is that non-metal which is the hardest? Carbon in the form of diamond. Simply if you write carbon, that may not give you full marks. You have to write carbon in the form of diamond. Why? Because the other allotropes of carbon are very soft. So this is an exception which you have to specify. So the first subpart, it has a weightage of 2 marks. Of the 2 marks, 1 mark will go for sodium and the second mark goes to carbon in the form of diamond. If you simply write carbon, you might get only, you can claim only for half a mark. So you have to be sure about that when you write that. Now the second part is a metal and a non-metal which exist. Here again you can see 2 subparts are there and both of them need to be attempted separately. Which is the first part? Mercury is a liquid metal, and in the next line bromine is a liquid non-metal. So this is a general type of question that we can expect for the CBSE board exam. Now see another typical question. State 3 reasons for the following facts. Some properties are given and you are asked to justify that. What is it? Sulfur is a non-metal, magnesium is a metal. I have already told you, whenever such questions, compare, contrast, always write in 2 columns. See here, it is being solved for you. See, in 2 columns, you are writing sulfur. What all are the 3 properties? Sulfur is a poor conductor, it is non-malleable and it is non-ductile. All these properties are properties of non-metals. And when you write in the next column, magnesium is a metal. So whatever property you have written here, its opposite property should be written in the next column. So magnesium is a very good conductor of heat or electricity, whatever. They are not asking what. Simply asked, is it a good conductor or not? Malleable, highly malleable. Then the third property, here if it is non-ductile, magnesium is the most ductile metal. So these were the 2 sample questions which I have prepared. So this chapter, as I said, it's very important as it has a weightage of 8 marks for the CBSE board exam. But fortunate you are to have direct questions from this chapter. So with that we come to an end of today's session. Now just try to summarize what we have studied. What did we discuss today? We discussed on metals, non-metals. What are they? They are elements. Majority of these elements are metals, few of them are non-metals. They share just opposite properties. Which all are the main properties? For metals we can say they are very hard, very strong, very dense. They are very good conductors, they are malleable, they are ductile, they are lustrous, they are sonorous, they are generally solids except for mercury, and they possess very high melting and boiling point. When you say about non-metals, what you can say? Just opposite, just an opposite property, that is very soft, very brittle, very low density, poor conductors, non-malleable, non-ductile, non-lustrous, non-sonorous, existing in all the 3 states, majority of them gases, because they possess very low melting and boiling point. And also we discussed on the intermediate elements, metalloids, which show both the properties of metals as well as non-metals. Hope all of you enjoyed today's session. Hope your doubts, because we started off by saying, what are the reasons? Why are these metals so precious, so unique, so incredible? By now, all of you might have understood that our Mother Nature has preserved such wonderful, incredible substances called metals and non-metals just for the welfare of the mankind. Thank you.